Labourd is a former French province and part of the present-day Pyrénées Atlantiques département. It is one of the traditional Basque provinces, and identified as one of the territorial component parts of the Basque Country by many, especially by the Basque nationalists. Labourd extends from the Pyrenees to the river Adour along the Bay of Biscay. To the south is Gipuzkoa and Navarre in Spain. To the east is Basse-Navarre. To the north are the lands. It has an area of almost 900 square kilometers and a population of over 200,000, the most populous of the three French Basque provinces. Over 25% of the inhabitants speak Basque. Labourd has also long had a Gascon-speaking tradition, noticeably next to the banks of the river Adour, but also more diffusedly throughout the whole County. The main town of Labourd is Bayonne, although the capital up to the French Revolution was Ustaritz, 13 kilometers away, where local Basque leaders assembled. Other important towns are Biarritz, Anglet, Hendaye, Sabour and Saint-Jean-de-Luz along the coast, and Hasparren inland. The area is famous for the five-day fetes de Bayonne and the red peppers of Espelette. Many tourists come to the coast, especially to Biarritz, and to hills and mountains of the interior for walking and agri-tourism. Laroun, a 900 meters high hill, lies south of Saint-Jean-de-Luz on the border with Spain. The hill is a Basque symbol, with spectacular views from its peak. The traditional buildings of Labourd have a low roof, half-timbered features, stone lintels and painted in red, white and green. The house of Edmond Rostand, Villa Arnagret Cambo les Bains, is such a house and is now a museum dedicated to the author of Cyrano de Bergerac and to Basque traditions. Lapourdian is a dialect of the Basque language spoken in the region. History. Ancient Labourd was inhabited by the Tarbellas, an Aquitanian tribe. They had the fortified town of Lapourdam, that eventually would become modern Bayonne, and give its name to the region. In the Middle Ages it formed part of the Duchy of Vasconia, which eventually came to be called Gascony. In the year 844 Viking raiders conquered the former oppidum of Lapourdam, where they established a base for their incursions. They were only expelled in 986, leaving a legacy of naval expertise in Labourd and all the coastal Basque Country. The town came out of this period attested as Bayonne. Up to this point the area of the river Adour was referred to as the county of Vasconia after the early 9th century. According to many authorities, Duke Sancho VI of Gascony ceded Labourd and its ports, Bayonne and Biarritz, to King Sancho III of Navarre around 1023, and Sancho in turn bestowed it on his majordomo, Lope Sanchez, as Viscount. This Lope was supposedly the king's relative, being a nephew of King Ramiro Garce of Vigera. This oft-repeated story has no basis in contemporary documents, and there is no evidence that Navarre extended its territory north of the Pyrenees prior to the late 12th century. Around 1125, Bayonne was chartered by Duke William IX of Aquitaine. In 1130–31, King Alfonso the Battler of Aragon and Navarre attacked Bayonne over a dispute on jurisdictions with the Duke of Aquitaine. William X the Saint. Labourd was ruled directly between 1169 and 1199 by Richard Lionheart, who gave a second charter to Bayonne c. 1174 and c. 1175 gave to the merchants of this city the return of the duties they paid in the tolls of Poitou, Aquitaine and Gascony. This caused an uprising of Gascons and Basques, but Richard defeated all the cities that had revolted. Richard married Navarre's Princess Berengaria of Navarre in 1191, which favoured the trade between Navarre and Bayonne. This marriage also included a jurisdictional transaction that shaped the borders of the northern Basque Country. Lower Navarre was definitively annexed to Navarre, while Labourd and Sul remained as parts of Angevin-Aquitaine. This pact was materialized in 1193 in form of the sale of the rights by the legitimate Viscounts of Labourd, who had established the seat in Ustaritz. Ustaritz was since then the capital of Labourd, instead of Bayonne, until the suppression of the province in 1790. John I of England gave to Bayonne the municipal law that created the figures of mayor, 12 juries, 12 councillors and 75 advisers. Labourd passed to French hands in 1451, just before the end of the 100 Years' War. Since then and until the French Revolution, Labourd was largely self-ruled as an autonomous French province. In 1610, Labourd suffered a major witch hunt at the hands of the judge Pierre de Lanca after feuds between the elites and different social layers took a turn for the worse over elements of superstition and alleged public morality, which ended up with some 70 supposed Sorgenic burnt at the stake. In 1790, France suppressed the historical provinces, including Labourd, incorporating them into the newly created département of Basses Pyrénées, together with Bearn. Dominique Joseph Garard and his older brother were then representing the built Tsar of Labourd's Third Estate in Paris. Like the other Basque representatives, he opposed the new administrative layout and the inclusion of the Basques in the same department with Bayonne and Bearn. During the War of the Pyrenees, Labourd had its customary trade with the southern Basque Country interrupted, and was shaken by indiscriminate repression unleashed by the Convention, resulting in mass deportation to the lands of Gascony, seizure of landholdings, and the death of an estimated 1,600 civilians from the bordering towns of Sara, Idzasu, Ascagne, Biriato, etc. The abuses included the establishment of new alien names to the villages and towns of Labourd, but they were soon after reverted to the usual names. In the last decades, petitions have asked for the separation from Bearn and the creation of a Basque département, together with the other two historical Basque provinces of Lower Navarre and Sul. Mariner activities. Labourd, like the other coastal territories of the Basque Country, played an important role in early European exploitation of the Atlantic Ocean. The earliest document that mentions the whale oil of blubber dates from 670. In 1059, Labourd whalers already gave to the Viscount the oil of the first captured animal. It seems that Basques disliked the taste of whales but made good business selling the meat and oil to the French, Castilian and Flemish. Basque whalers used for this activity the long boats known as traineras, that only allowed whaling near the coast or based in a larger ship. It seems that it was this industry, along with cod fishing, is what brought Basque sailors to the North Sea and eventually to Newfoundland. Basque whaling in Newfoundland and Labrador began in the 1530s. By at least the early 17th century, Basque whalers had reached Iceland. The development of rudder in Europe seems also a Basque and specifically Labourdian development. Three-masted ships appear in a fresco of a stela dating to the 12th century. Seals preserved in the Navarrese and Parisian historical archives also show similar ships. Rudder itself is first mentioned as Tierra la Navarrese or la Bayonnaise, after Navarre lost San Sebastian and Hondarribia to Castile in 1200. It signed a treaty with Bayonne that made it the port of Navarre for nearly 3 centuries, role that extended also into the early modern age, after Navarre had been annexed by Castile.